Welcome to the Igniting the CEO Within podcast, where we interview successful, high-level professionals to discover lessons they've learned throughout their career that can help ignite that CEO within you. I'm Mark McFatridge, and I'll be your host for the next 15 minutes or so. Our show is sponsored by Quaid, a nationwide community of CEOs and entrepreneurs. Quaid has developed Launchpad, which offers an opportunity for experienced executive coaches and fractional executives to become licensed circle directors. After completing the Launchpad program, you'll lead your own peer advisory circles, helping other CEOs and entrepreneurs excel in their professional and personal lives while providing a community of accountability, challenge, and support. If you'd like to learn more, go to quaidcircle.com. On our show today, we have John Von Thaden, Managing Partner of Industrial Solutions out of Chicago, Illinois. John, welcome to the show.
Mark, it's really glad to be here. Thank you so much. I'm really excited about spending a few minutes with you today.
Me too. So let's not waste any time. Let's jump right into it.
Great.
Look, you've had a really cool career, and over that time, you have been exposed to all kinds of leaders, and you've seen some great ones and maybe some not so great ones. If you started to look at maybe traits or characteristics that separate the really good ones from the ones who could use a little work, what would that be?
I think that there are a couple of key elements that I have seen. One is that good leaders are decisive, not exclusive to collaboration. In fact, they are often the most comfortable collaborating because they're confident about their own ability to assess and think through the circumstances and to gather information and show respect to their team. But I think the challenging ones are those who tiptoe into decisions or have they've got a new idea every day and they can't focus or give enough time for decisions to germinate. And I've even recall a manager who said, well, we'll try this for a while, which doesn't endear people to proceed. They start to become hesitant themselves about their willingness to commit. And so what I have found is that when good leaders are engaging with their teams, they exude a level of confidence about the path forward and a clarity about direction that gives the team the ability to proceed confident that they understand where they're going and how what they're doing fits into that overall perspective of achieving objectives.
You know, I'm really glad you added that last part, because I do think that there is a positive piece of being decisive, but I do think that as you're leading, especially in today's world, that you have to start to reach out and engage with your teammates and, figure out what they're seeing on the front line, understanding what's going on, and then correlating it to kind of your strategic plan or your vision. I always like to use this phrase, but it can't be the jelly of the month club, right?
No, for sure. Or of the week.
Right. Yeah. So talk more about that engagement and that balance between, being decisive, but yet open to the conversations that have to take place to make sure that A, you're heading in the right direction, and B, that you're in that engagement with your team which is so important.
I certainly think that leaders early on think they have to be the smartest in the room, and they become very defensive when maybe they don't know everything. And in fact, I have found that the most effective way to work with a team is to leverage their knowledge and strengths. And so when you're able to allow a team to speak in to the direction, there are levels of priorities and levels of how you pursue a mission in an organization. And oftentimes the focus is on that it's about good management. But what I found is it's about a leader who is comfortable in allowing his team to be part of the decision making process, and
Mhm.
then establishing clarity about how they're going to move forward, and then reinforcing both that, like, through the way that they operate and the things that they say, reinforcing consistently the direction, and then showing appreciation, which is a means of reinforcing the right priorities.
Yeah.
We don't praise or show appreciation for activity, but for outcomes, and for uh, people who are making the right commitments and prioritizing their activity. And we do that specifically, which helps to reinforce the direction of the organization.
Yeah, I really like that. That's good stuff. The interestingly though, that's easier said than done, right? From both perspectives. From the leader, right, who has to make that mind shift from I'm the smartest person in the room, and I always have to be on and all that kind of stuff. There's also a shift from the employee side of things, right? Of, okay, how much do I stick my neck out there? Like, is he really open to my pushback and all that? How do you walk through those those challenges of a, as the leader, bringing your guard down and opening your arms to say I'm open, and then B, really fostering a culture that perpetuates those conversations that can come from lower in the organizational chart.
Uh, uh, I think that's good, and I think you're right. It's tough. I remember a emerging leader who, honestly, was had some of the fastest analysis and thought process of anyone I'd ever met,
Hmm.
but so fast that he would leave his team behind him, and he would come into the process um, with all the decisions already made, and he was basically dictating what he wanted done, and that just doesn't work.
Right.
And so, after some conversations with him, he started trying to allow that conversation to happen more naturally, and for him to shape that as it would go. But in his early efforts, he would ultimately, you could sense his frustration at the time it was taking for the team to get on board, and he would present a straw man. But he would present a straw man that was so firm that he would spend the rest of the time arguing about why that was the right way. And that doesn't, you don't get the buy in that you need.
Yeah.
You have to allow people, and this is where you have to understand how people think. I've used with a lot of leadership teams that I've worked with. I've used the DISC assessment.
Hmm.
Maybe that's one of many that I think are really good, but I think
Yeah.
it's extremely accessible. But you have some of your team that, if you gave them the idea before the meeting, they run ahead. They come with all this work already done, and they're far down the path, and others need more time to process.
Hmm.
And so I had to learn that and help my team move at the pace of those that maybe needed more time. So those that needed more time, I give them the ideas, the direction, some insight ahead of time. And those that think on their feet, they may come to the meeting with a little less, because otherwise they're so far ahead. And so, figuring out the pacing, if you're really going to allow people to participate in the development of not just direction, but how do we implement? How do we move from this path or plan that we have into actually seeing it materialize? You have to help people to be part of that, and give them the time. And I think some of that is recognizing how people process,
Uh-huh.
and and recognizing those that will just nod their head and then delay as long as they can,
Yeah.
uh, because they don't really like change. They won't argue against it because they don't feel that there's trust been built by the leader. And I've seen that too, where a leader will invite input, and then it appears that they actually punish those that disagree.
Mhm.
And instead, I think you have to actually draw out of people and be comfortable with conflict that's healthy, because no innovation happens without a healthy level of conflict within your organization.
Yeah, there's a whole bunch to unpack in there. One of and it reminds me of a story of one of the things that I and leaders often forget is when you start to bring something to your team, you've already been thinking about it for a long time, right? And you've
Sure.
gone through in your head all the challenges, all the opportunities, where it could lead, how you do all this kind of stuff. And so it's natural for you to have some view of what it's going to look like, and to then go and share it and put it in people's laps, for the very first time, they haven't had that same amount of time to
No.
process it and think. And
Right.
so, yeah, so I think, that's something that you often forget is, dude, you've been thinking about this for a long time. These guys are hearing it for the first time. You got to let them catch up. Otherwise you're like, you're going to run over them.
Exactly. Exactly so.
Yeah. So, taking that time, and I loved your disc example. I'm a huge disc fan, especially in companies when, you're talking about communication styles and how people process
Mhm.
and understand. I think it is really valuable for everybody to understand where
Well,
everybody on their team is coming from.
absolutely. It's
But then
one of the
also,
things that
yeah,
I like about that about DISC is that, and I used this word already, but it's very accessible.
yeah,
Some of the personality assessments or strength builder type programs, you almost, they say, well, put this on your desk, or you wear a tag
yeah,
with your strength, because it's so hard to remember. But the thing I like about DISC is that I can say, okay, this person is an S. There's only like a handful of things that I probably need to recall about that, and I can
yeah,
very quickly understand how to relate to people from these different um, thought process or approaches. And I have found it to be extremely helpful from many perspectives, not only team building, but from a sales perspective. When a
hmm
salesperson starts to be able to think about their customers from these various um,
styles.
personality
Yeah,
styles,
yep.
they're able to really move forward with be sure that they're not giving a D all of that detail, but they're not shortchanging the C who is like looking to dot every I and cross every T. Right.
Yeah, no, that's exactly right. In that regard, I think it's just a tremendous tool because probably the best leaders I think tend to meet people where they are, and if you have an understanding and have the ability to read and go, oh yeah, John is a high C, and so he's going to want very detailed structure in how you present to
Exactly.
him. If Sue is a high D, you better hit bullet points and get in and get out, right? And if you do that, you're just going to increase your success rate in whatever you're presenting.
Exactly. Yeah, for sure. And I think going back to leadership and teams, when you understand that about your teammates, you can help them to participate by, as I said before, maybe giving them more information or more time, or recognizing that for some people the decision isn't about logical ABC 1 2 3. It's about how is this decision going to impact relationships and how we work in the future. And so working and understanding that people in your team come to uh priorities and decision making from these different perspectives is a tremendous help as a leader, because it gives you the chance to really engage each and every one of your team members early on. It's one of the things that I think people sometimes, new leaders, don't realize, is that decisions might germinate or finalize in a meeting, but most of the work of good decision making happens one on one or in smaller groups outside of the actual meeting. And
Hmm.
you can't wait till you get to the meeting and expect everyone to be ready to make a decision there, or even to give their best feedback. And
Yeah, Well, again, I think it boils down to that emotional intelligence, right? Of understanding and being able to read the
Sure.
room and what do people need and who needs more time, who needs a lot of prep work, who needs to just get the bare minimum of facts, and they're able to discern and go through and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, that emotional intelligence and complete understanding of who you are and meeting people where they are, the most successful people, I think, are leaders are able to do that.
Yeah, it's interesting, especially when we're talking about this idea of execution. I think I used to believe in, and in fact, you've had a couple of conversations that I took some opportunity to watch a number of your podcasts, and uh, you've had some discussions about execution where the emphasis is really on cadence or metrics or accountability, and I think those are true building blocks of execution. But there's a leader has to create a consistency of signal that they're communicating if they're going to get the buy-in that they need. They have to really present that. Um, it's not really about operating rhythm as much as it is about building an environment where people are confident that decision being made is one that we're going to carry forward, that I can contribute to this process, about how we get these things done in a way that that benefits the rest of the organization, but also and that my input is going to be worthwhile and well received. Yeah,
Yeah, that's a great bow on this topic, right? Of people want to know what the vision is, they want to know the pathway that they're going to get there, and they want to know what their role is in getting there. And I mean, if you can break it down to that simplicity, man, you're going to do some good stuff.
for sure, for sure.
Yeah,
And I think that's where real alignment happens. It's not that everyone agrees; it's that people understand their role and what they're bringing to the table, and how what they're going to contribute is going to help get the organization to where you want to go, and that they understand that how this decision or direction aligns with the organizational values and even their own individual values as well.
that's awesome. All right, man. As we wrap this up, let's finish with my last question. So, if you think back to 21-year-old John, what is one thing you wish that he knew that you've learned over these years?
I think it's this whole idea of clarity. I guess I started with the whole who's the smartest in the room, and that I
Mhm.
I kind of thought that's what leadership was about, or about having the boldest or the best strategy. But I really think it's about having clarity that gives others the freedom and opportunity to truly commit and collaborate and participate in that. And so their contribution is greater to the organization when the manager focuses on a consistent, clear message. And that's how trust is built, not so much through charisma, but through consistency.
Yep. I love that. I love that. Hey, John, thank you for hanging out with me. Do me a favor. Would you
Yeah.
share with our audience what a typical engagement with you looks like and how they can get a hold of you?
Sure, sure. I do two kinds. I am sometimes an executive, fractional executive, where I come into an organization for an extended period of time, take on a role, and help them move forward. But in most of my organizational engagements, I step in to help assist the um, senior executives when the organization is starting to move beyond what they have the capacity to manage,
Mm.
and I help give them tools. Maybe it's coaching or helping them to reset direction or strategy, assess how their team is working, perhaps provide them with some assistance in how they realign their organization's priorities, and then how do they keep going forward using a game plan strategy that I have that allows them to focus on key priorities for the short term with the eye on the long term. And so they would engage me through they can go to my website at solutions-industrial.com and find information about how to connect with me. And they can send me an email at jvonthaden at solutions-industrial.com, and be happy to talk with them about how how we might move forward. And I offer a first 30 minutes consultation to see if it makes sense for us to work forward. And sometimes I'm able to give a little bit of a direction even then that helps people to get unstuck and be able to take the next steps for their organization.
I love it. John, this has been great. Thank you so much for hanging out with me today and sharing
Oh,
some
it's
of
been
your
my
insights.
pleasure.
Yeah.
I really appreciate it. And, we've covered a number of topics. Maybe there'll be something else we can cover in the future. I'd love it.
I love it. Yep. I love it. All right, y'all. We've done it again. We have found another amazing leader with incredible experiences and wisdom that he's been willing to share with us. Thank you to John for joining us today. As a reminder, as we wrap up, Igniting the CEO Within is sponsored by Quaid, a nationwide community of CEOs and entrepreneurs. Quaid has created Launchpad, which provides an opportunity for experienced executive coaches and fractional executives to become licensed circle directors and significantly impact the lives of CEOs and entrepreneurs. To find out more, visit quaidcircle.com. Until next time, keep igniting that CEO within you. I'm Mark McFatridge. Thanks for listening.